Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I'm back in for some non-Spooktober or Mandalorian content. I apologize. It's been a little while since we talked anything not from Spooktober or the Mandalorian. Pretty much the Blood of Zeus, I think, is the only thing I slipped in there. And I gotta say, as much as I love that October run, 31 reviews in 31 days kind of ran me into the ground a little bit. With that on top of work and real life stuff, I got kind of sick. I think you probably saw that at the end of October. Probably even seen it in the Mandalorian reviews. I've been kind of fighting off a cold that just won't leave or wouldn't leave, and I just was physically unpresentable to be on camera most days. I mean, I get the out of like 5 a.m. wake up, or 3 a.m. wake up times for, the Mandalorian, and I guess I'm not really that presentable generally because of the beard, but I don't know, man. I just need to take my foot off the gas a little bit. But because I took my foot off the gas creating content, doesn't mean I wasn't watching content. And I got some really good content to talk about with you guys over the next couple days. And we're going to start with what is now my favorite show of 2020. What? Yeah, that's right. The Umbrella Academy got topped by The Boys. The Boys got topped by Lovecraft Country, which I swear those reviews will come one day. I promise you. We'll get there. But now all of those have been topped by this Netflix show, helmed by Mr. Scott Frank and starring Miss Anya Taylor Joy. So why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into Netflix's The Queen's Gambit. Oh my goodness. I'm going to start like this. Scott Frank adapted a fictional novel about a 9-year-old orphan girl who becomes a chess prodigy and legend. A show about chess is my favorite show of the year. That's crazy to me, because I barely know anything about chess. I can tell you, I think the horse moves in like an L form, and like the castles move up and down and left and right, and like pawns can move one at a time, and I think the king can go wherever the queen can go wherever the hell she wants, I think. I don't know. Like, I barely know how to play chess, and yet I was fascinated with this show. And on top of that, some of the most suspenseful, thrilling, and entertaining stuff I've watched all year. Yes, I'm talking about chess. Let's start at the top. This is based on a 1983 novel by Walter Tevis. What I love about what Tevis does from the story is being able to take a world that he was quite fascinated in. He played chess and was a chess fan. Take real-life experiences of his own. He battled a drug addiction because of a heart condition that he was diagnosed with. And back in the day, in like the 50s, they'd pop out tranks and, painkillers, no problem. Didn't matter how old you were. And addiction to painkillers in children, I think, was semi-commonplace, specifically in orphanages. So he took something that happened to him in real life, applied it to this girl in an orphanage. And then also took like real life experiences from grandmasters like Bobby Fischer, Boris Spassky, and Anatoly Karpov, and apply it to this character, Beth Harmon, and create a female chess prodigy in the peak of chess playing in a time where the world was dominated by men, and then even more so, the chess world was dominated by men. And you end up with a story that is, I would imagine, a page turner the whole time, because the show was a next episode, push the button kind of show. You can't stop watching this. And it's because of the way in which Scott Frank adapts the material. I've never read the book, but I would have to imagine it's pretty accurate. I mean, you got 7 episodes in a miniseries, 6.5 hours to tell this story. It felt very much like it almost felt like it flowed like a book. Like there are chapters. Every episode is almost like a chapter in Beth's life. And just the writing in general is really, really spot on. I mean, that's no surprise coming from Scott Frank. I mean, this is a guy who wrote The Minority Report, Oscar nominated for Out of Sight, Logan. This is a dude who knows how to write characters, and a dude who knows how to write like fast-thinking, really, really smart characters. I think you take a lot of the character depth that you get in Logan and a lot of the genius you get out of Tom Cruise's character in Minority Report, and you apply that to Beth Harmon, and you set up a guy who's had a really good career, who has a lot of experience behind him, where he's able to pull different things from all these different movies and different tools out of his tool belt and applies it all to a show that he directs, all 7 episodes. and just gives you a complete vision that, for me, is the best stuff that Scott Frank has ever done. Like I said, the story is unbelievably compelling. Watching this little orphan 9-year-old girl learn chess in a basement of an orphanage from a janitor who sees that she has the ability to be a prodigy, helps teach her and set her up to where she could be a prodigy, and when she finally leaves the orphanage at 15, is able to become one of the greatest chess players of all time. I love the way that Frank embeds us in that orphanage the first few episodes, and then goes on like a globe-trotting James Bond adventure in the world of chess. It is awesome. And I mean, you even got the Russian villains, who I wouldn't even say are villains. They're just like the best in the world, and those are the ones that Beth wants to beat one day. She wants to become the best in the world. She's going to have to beat the top Russian players, including fictional Vasily Borgov, who is the greatest Russian chess player. That is who her main target is once she enters the world of competitive chess. She gets in and she's like, that guy. I got to get to that guy. I got to beat that guy. And having that kind of structure and flow over the course of 7 episodes allows Frank to really build a fun and interesting show that has these great ups and these wonderful downs, but all builds to a peak that hits at the end of the show where you want it to hit. The finale is so satisfying that even when the finale's over, like, Frank is riding that high of like, man, I've built everything to this moment, and that moment works perfectly. And then I'm just, for you fans, I'm going to give you like 5 extra minutes and one little scene that just makes you smile. And like, watching the show, I was happy the whole time. And from the writing, the directing side of things, oh my goodness, man, like, Frank's vision is wonderful. I love the way he shoots this thing. The camera movements help indicate like what's going on in these chess matches. Like, I don't know a lot about chess. Like I said, I know the basics. This show goes into like openings and defenses and things that I don't understand, but I can watch it on screen because the camera tells me what's happening. The score tells me what's happening. Oh my God, the score tells you what's happening. The score in this show is what makes it so thrilling. Like, I was sitting there like 2-3 episodes in, I'm like, why am I so enamored by these chess matches? Because there's an element of speed chess, and that's probably the most mesmerizing thing that Frank does. We'll talk about that in a second. But even just the basic chess matches, we're only seeing a couple moves here and there. I'm just so captivated because the score is pulling you in the way a suspense thriller does. Like, you score these chess matches as if they're in the middle of a suspense thriller, and you suddenly are like, yes, is she gonna win? Is she gonna... Yeah! You know, like, I jumped out of my chair legitimately a couple times during the show. And like, that stuff, it just enhances it. And then when you add the performance to that, like what Anya Taylor Joy's face is telling us, or what her opponent's face is telling us, helps indicate how we know how she's faring, if she's doing good or bad. And every once in a while, you know, you do have like a play-by-play announcer come in, you can kind of understand what's going on. But Frank just gives us these things in a way where you can watch it, you can be captivated by it, and I don't have to understand it to know, like, shoot, she's in trouble here. Like, oh man, should we be nervous? Oh man, should we be getting excited because she's about to win? All of that's dictated by what's going on from the production side. And then when you look at the actual production side, and like set designs is a show that is a time period piece. Heck, it's so time period accurate and so feels so authentic. Like, I had to look up the fact that this was a fictional book by Walter Tevis and not a biographical novel, because it feels and looks like it's a biographical novel. And the set pieces are wonderful, from like the interiors of the house or the orphanage. Just seeing that contrast and the different types of 50s and 60s styles to some of these houses, from their kitchens to their wallpaper, just so spot on, to the department stores, to the wardrobe. Beth's wardrobe is amazing. From her ratty clothes of the orphanage to the glam style she gets as she starts to earn money playing chess in real life. Just striking, beautiful things to look at the whole show. I mean, the guys, the girls, everything feels so authentic that, like I said, you think it's real. And this is some of the best stuff that I've seen Frank do personally. Like I said, its peak doesn't hit until you get to the end of the show, even though maybe my favorite moment isn't the end. The feel of the show and the pacing of the show just brings you to a place where you're just, yes, keep going. I wish there would be more. It's a miniseries that has a concrete ending, but One that was just so satisfying to watch over the course of the 6.5 hours. And so much of that, while most of it is on, Scott Frank, so much of it is on Anya Taylor Joy. I've been a fan of hers, man, since she made her film debut in The Witch. And whether it was not so good movies like Morgan, she still did really, really cool things. Whether they were bigger movies like Glass or Split, but she was the supporting character. The way she played that was wonderful. Small movies like Thoroughbreds or Emma, like just movies that whether she's starring or supporting in, she's really, really, really freaking good all the time. But she hasn't really quite popped. And I think this is going to be the thing that like really stamps Anya Taylor Joy into the household name category of like top actors. Like I think her career is about to skyrocket because this is a show that's in everybody's home. And like I said, it's been either number 1 or number 2 on Netflix since it debuted. And she is mind-blowingly fantastic. This is a character, like I said, is really introverted. And so much of that stems from the trauma of what led to her becoming an orphan. And how Anya Taylor-Joy plays with that at the beginning when she's still kind of introverted to slowly kind of breaking out of her shell and creating friendships and relationships with people that she really didn't know how to do, and specifically with men. She was in an all-girls orphanage. And the show, she is surrounded by men. Like I said, this is a time period that is dominated by a male-oriented world, and the world of chess is very male-oriented. So watching her interact with these men throughout the show, and there's a collection of them that kind of surround her throughout the whole thing, it's really fun to watch her come out of her shell and figure out who she is. And just the way she juggles all of the different emotional things that she's dealing with, plus that drug addiction from the tranquilizers she kind of had to take when she was at the orphanage. It's one of those, her friend Jolene, who's played by Moses Ingram, she's like, save the green ones for at night because they're a tranquilizer. You want to pass out, and she would save him up and instead like trip balls and get high. And it plays into her chess playing. And the way that's depicted in the show has something to do with the ceiling. Anytime Frank is going to the ceiling, you can bet your ass it's something that you're going to love. And it's something that's very apparent at the beginning and then kind of less apparent, but anytime it pops up throughout the show after the beginning, just gets you, like you see it and you're like, yes, like give me that. And how all of those types of things play into the character, handled perfectly by Taylor Joy. She just captivates you. And her wardrobe in particular, like I said, going from the orphanage to being a top chess player who's making legit money, her style choices are fantastic. But the hair is so crazy. They make you believe that I think 23 or 24-year-old Anya Taylor-Joy is legitimately 15 at one point in the show because of the haircut. And the hair grows and the styles change almost by episode. And it kind of helps you realize where you are in her life or time period of age. How they age her in the show through her hair I thought was really, really interesting. And the way that she just kind of handles herself from 15 to like 22, I think is where they go. Just really well executed, and like I said, you're just fixated and enamored, and the skills, man, of being on that chessboard. I read an interview where she said, being a dancer really helped her to help the choreography of the chess playing, and at first you're like, well, Frank will be here for like 3 or 4 moves, and then he'll come over here, and then he might come up here, so like you don't have to. Then they get into speed chess, and I was sitting there just like, oh wow, yeah, that is where that dance training comes in, because it is like a dance, man. You're just, because it's literally like I move, hit, you move, hit, I move, like it's moving as quick as you possibly can. And just the style of her play, she's very instinctual. So watching her play those speed chess matches is wonderful, all the way up to her most difficult matches. I love watching her face. That acting, like I said, helps tell us if things are going well or not for her. And when she is crushing opponents, love what she's doing. And when she is struggling, I really love it. And it makes everything earned and so satisfying by the end of the show. And all of that is just captured in the performance of Anya Taylor Joy. Now, there's a massive cast around her. It starts with Isla Johnston, who plays young Beth Harmon. I shout her out because she is all of episode 1. She is the hook. I got hooked on this show because of what that little girl did in that first episode as Beth. and how she learns about chess and how she starts to be taught how to play chess and how she starts to dominate at the age of 9. You just get this first episode that you were captivated by this little girl, man, because she's very quiet. She doesn't say very much to anybody until she meets that janitor and starts to learn how to play chess. But the furrow in her brow and the stern look in her face at all times, there's just something magnetizing about that from this little girl, and she's wonderful. And like I said, is the hook into the show. Then you have Jolene, who is Beth's first friend, plays by Moses Ingram. She's phenomenal. She is a badass, take no nonsense woman who at the beginning is supposed to be a girl, probably somewhere in the age range of 13 or 14, and then when we see her later on, when she's full grown woman, you find out what she's doing on the outside after she finally got out of the orphanage. Oh man, dude, she is just a no nonsense chick, and the way that she talks, her attitude, her sass, and how that gives Anya Taylor Joy's Beth confidence, and kind of gives her a space where she can break out of that introvertedness a little bit, is just wonderful. And the on-screen chemistry of Ingram and Taylor Joy is just wonderful to watch. And like I said, I like what she brings out of Beth when she's on screen, because her attitude, she's the one who's cursing and has a terrible mouth, and in the orphanage, and that attitude, how that applies to Beth. And that's one of the things I love about the show, is all the things that Beth takes from the people around her, to kind of build into her own character. And one of the most important of all those people is Marielle Heller's character, Alma Wheatley, who plays her adoptive mother. She gets adopted at 15, spoilers, and her husband is not in the picture. He is traveling for work all the time, and it's very apparent that he would rather be not at home and maybe living a secret life in Denver, I think, is where he is. So you end up with this woman who wasn't able to have children, adopts a 15-year-old girl, and obviously there's money in that. But you end up with the character who now all of a sudden has to be the single mother to this 15-year-old who loves chess. And at the beginning, Heller kind of gives you this vibe where it's I think she wanted a kid, but now she sees an opportunity. When she finds out that Beth is a phenomenal chess player and she brings home money from that first tournament she plays in, there's a look in Heller's eye where you're oh, this is going to become that mom who's just raking in all the cash. But it doesn't end up being that. She ends up being a mother that really does love Beth and really cares about Beth, and becomes Beth's best friend, her companion throughout all of her globe-trotting adventures. Anywhere she goes, Alma is with her. And Marielle Heller is just as standout and breakout performance worthy as Anya Taylor Joy is. She steals a couple scenes from her throughout the show, and the things that she's dealing with. She's kind of sick on and off a bunch, and like I said, just kind of living this life where you get to watch not only Beth become her own person, but you also get to watch this full-blown woman become her own person, because what she ended up with in life just kind of stunted her own personal growth. And getting to watch her break out and actually be a mom who cares about her kid while also becoming a woman who cares about herself, again, in this very male-oriented world. I just loved what Heller brought to that character, and that performance is something that just really stands out and is one that's so important to Beth. Having that support, right? Like Jolene, when she's at the orphanage, she can go to. Or she can go to Mr. Schaibel, who's the janitor that teaches her how to play chess, played by Bill Camp, who's spectacular. I love what he means to Beth, and what he means to Beth at different times, how that character plays in, and just the cold sternness and the way that he taught her how to play. I just loved how he played that stuff. But just like any of those kind of, you had those outlets at the orphanage, Alma becomes one of her go-to outlets when she breaks or has tough times. And seeing, Heller play that support for her was really, really wonderful, specifically knowing what the story of Beth is by that point. Then, after that, it's nothing but dudes around her. There is one woman who's this French woman who kind of hangs out with Benny Watts' crew of people. but she doesn't really have a positive influence on Beth. We can say that. But all of these men that surround her in this world really all do support her in really awesome ways, even though they are opponents at certain points in the show. So first off, you got Harry Melling, who plays Harry Beltik, one of the first people who's like really, really good at chess, like a former Kentucky champion that she has to go through in order to become a Kentucky champion herself. And it's one of those things where Melling, who you should know as Dudley from the Harry Potter world, he's got this face to him where he pulls off arrogant, snobby prick really well just with looks, and that's the kind of vibe that you have of Harry early. And when things play the way they do, you're able to really enjoy it. And then Harry comes back into the picture, and while Harry has parts to himself and to his character that you really don't like, there's a lot of redeeming qualities, and there's a legitimate care and concern and thoughtfulness towards Beth from Melling, and some of that stems from a crush to an actual like friendship that he has with her, and their on-screen chemistry and that first relationship that she kind of has, between the two of them, really, really important step in Beth advancing who she is in life and what Harry means to her and how he kind of interacts with her later on throughout the entire course of the show. I really enjoyed watching. Then you have also back in Kentucky at that first chess match, you have these guys, Matt and Mike. They're the guys who sit at the table when you come in to sign up. They kind of break down how this tournament works because it's the first one that Beth's ever been in. And they're these two guys who are like, you've never played, you don't have a ranking, what? And you're so confident, and like all of a sudden they start to realize that she's this chess prodigy. And they pop up in a bunch of places. They're the first people from that original grouping that you see pop up somewhere else. One of the tournaments that she goes to, they're there. And she's like, oh my gosh, Matt and Mike, how are you? And they become kind of like her first legitimate friends. And they're these two guys played by Matthew Dennis Lewis and Russell Dennis Lewis, actual twins, that I love. Like every time they're on screen, their characters are so simple, so minor, but there's legitimate compassion and care and love for Beth because of who she is as a chess player. That ignites a legitimate friendship. And anytime those two guys end up on screen, you're just like, oh, I love those guys. Then you also have, at that very same tournament, D.L. Towns, played by Jacob Fortune-Lloyd. And that's like Beth's first crush. Jacob Lloyd is a pretty dashing, good-looking dude, and he is smooth as butter, man. Like, that dude just needs to smile, and you're like, yeah, I'd fall in love with you. And that's kind of what happens to Beth, and she meets him at 15. So there's a really interesting dynamic going on during that, because you're getting it from Beth's perspective, and she's enamored, and like, oh my god, like, this is the prettiest thing I've ever seen in my life type of bit. And she has a legitimate crush on him. And then he doesn't factor in until later on, after she's matured into an adult woman. And the way Towns plays, and the way that character plays, and what that character means, I really love Towns' character, and that relationship as well. And Fortune-Lloyd just, like I said, just oozes that super smooth, suave guy, and he just shows up and does wonderful things when he does. And then finally, out of all these men that have helped support Miss Beth Harmon, Thomas Brodie-Sangster, who you should know from the Maze Runner movies, plays Benny Watts. This is that guy who we get the speed chess with, and he is fast-talking, super cool, always in like a trench coat and a cowboy hat, and he's got this mustache, and he's just cool, man. Like, Benny Watts is a cool dude, and how he approaches chess and how he pushes Beth and what their relationship means when that kind of happens, he's wonderful the whole show, and he's a firecracker. He's a spark plug when you need the show to get that kind of spark plug, that adrenaline punch that it needs. That's what Brodie-Sangster brings, and how he plays into everything, again, in this ensemble group of men that just help Beth get to where she's got to go. I just love what he brings to the character, and how that relationship and chemistry with Anya Taylor Joy can be contentious and then like really thoughtful and caring. I just loved how all of that played in the scenes in Benny's apartment are just wonderful. I love how that whole sequence is just great. Like how Beth reacts and then how they play chess together is just wonderful. And then finally we have Marcin Dorocinski. And while Dorocinski isn't one of these guys that kind of supports Beth, he is the ultimate goal. He is the best Russian player in the world. He is the guy who you would have to say is akin to a Boris Spassky or an Anatoly Karpov back in the day for chess. And what Dorocinski does is he just delivers that cold, calculating, silent killer Russian. Where, like, if you think Russian chess, like, this guy is that epitome. Perfect stature, perfect posture, composed at all times, never loses his cool. And watching his face, specifically when you're talking about the facial acting, when him and Anya Taylor Joy are going up against each other, I love watching their faces because he's the more dominant player. He's got more experience and he's learned so much. Like, when you watch him play, like, he'll get into a spot where he's kind of cornered or trapped, and you see, not panic, but, like, how can I get out of this? And then, like, you see it hit him, and then you see the move happen. But at the same time, sometimes he'll show, like, nervousness, or, like, I can't believe she did that, because he knows how good she is, and he might have thought she might have gone this way instead. And the way their matches play lead to a finale that is just so satisfying, and what you get by the end of it, you're just like, Scott Frank, you crushed it, baby. And like I said, he gives you that like 2-minute little bit right at the end where you're like, I hit the peak. We're supposed to be on the down to the credits. You gave me something else that just was wonderful. Like, start to finish, The Queen's Gambit is easily, for me, the best show of 2020. This thing has Emmy written all over it, man. I'm going to call it right now. Queen's Gambit, when the Emmys come back around, will win Best Limited Series, because I think it's a limited series on Netflix. It'll probably win that. I can see Anya Taylor Joy winning Best Actor in a female leading role, and I could 100% see Marielle Heller winning Supporting Actor in a female supporting role. The performance, I mean, anybody in this cast could get nominated. Performances are fantastic. Scott Frank deserves all the accolades that can come from writing and developing and directing a television show. Like I said, I think this is some of the best work he's ever done. Was some of the best work she's ever done for one of the best shows of the year. So there you go, man. The Seaman loves him a show about chess. The Queen's Gambit, which is a chess maneuver. It was everything I didn't know that I needed in life, but everything I look for and want out of really high quality content and really good television production. This thing, writing to production to acting to set design to costume design, everything on this show is just wonderful. So there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on The Queen's Gambit. Now I want to know what your thoughts are. Like I said, show's been number 1, number 2 on Netflix for 3 weeks almost now. So if you've seen it, what are you thinking? Good? Bad? In the middle? What was working, man? From the writing and directing and production side to the acting to your leading star in Anya Taylor Joy. What were you liking? What were you not liking? Were you fascinated with the story? Did the chess matches pull you up to the edge of your seat? Did you find them to be thrilling and so much of the thrillingness coming from that score? Like, did you think it was smart to use a thriller-type score underneath chess matches? Did that work for you? Did those shots on the ceiling just get you excited? Or, you just kind of in the middle, or, it was okay, or I didn't like it at all. Because maybe chess isn't for everybody, but I know if I had the brain capacity to learn how to play chess like they do in this, I would try, but I don't think I have that at 34. So if you do, maybe you're going to try playing chess. Let me know anything you're thinking, good, bad, indifferent, about the Queen's Gambit down below in the comments section. As always, look forward to talking to you down there. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman anytime, we're talking movies, TV, trailers, want to show a little love, you like what we're doing here and you haven't yet, come join the C-Maniac Nation, baby. Jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell for the alerts if you want those. And until next time, for the Seaman's Cinema, sit down. I've been the Seaman, I'm signing off. Peace.
Well, as I live and breathe, you're still here? Check out a video like this one, or this one, and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the Seaman's got at the Cinema Sit Down.